you're expecting isn't always what you get. This situation happened on a very normal Thursday night. I live alone. I was at home watching a movie unwinding from a long day at work. It was just after 7 p.m. in the evening and it was dark outside. I live on the outside edge of a small town. My closest neighbor is probably a quarter-mile away, and street lights in the area are a rare thing. There just happens to be a utility pole, sort of off center of my house with a street light attached to it that lights most of the immediate road and my driveway. I tell you this because without that street light I may not have been properly informed of the situation that I'm going to tell you about. I was sort of jarred to attention when a loud knock came from my front door. My mind immediately began the process of filtering out who this could be. I wasn't expecting anyone, and my closest family lives almost 2 hours away. Perhaps a neighbor or an unexpected visit from a friend. When I opened the door, the light from the living room barely illuminated the figure of a tall man with a brown shirt that said ups. I have a wooden front door and a glass screen door. The screen door was still locked. The moment I opened the wooden door, the man stated ups, I have a package I need you to sign for. I thought okay, and my hand went for the latch on the screen door. Literally, as soon as my hand touched the lock to unlock it, something said stop, like a voice in my head that just simply stated stop. My hand and eyes rested on the screen door latch for what seemed like an eternity, but was actually only 2 seconds probably. Then without unlocking the door, I looked up and glanced at the man again through the glass. My eyes scrolled down to see that he was wearing a pair of light blue jeans. They then immediately darted to the driveway to look for that familiar big brown truck. The only vehicle around other than mine was a red car at the very end of my driveway with its lights on. My eyes shot back to his. He was looking at me dead in my eyes. I distinctly remember getting a chill right at the moment. The words "are you really from Ops" then just fell out of my mouth without even really thinking about it. There was silence for around 4 seconds as he just looked at me. Again, it seemed like an absolute eternity. In those 4 seconds of nothingness, it was like my mind was writing a novel and doing flash forwards and flashbacks to every possible scenario involving this situation, and mentally locating things close to me to use for a weapon. The chill over my body intensified times 10. All of these background thoughts going on were stopped when he began violently yanking on the screen door, yelling at me to open it. I'm still shocked that the screen door lock held up to such abuse. I immediately slammed the door and turned the deadbolt and doorknob lock. I could hear him now punching the glass. I ran to the kitchen drawer, where I kept a handgun, and then immediately grabbed my phone from the living room and dialed 911. By this time, the phone was ringing and I noticed the banging had stopped. I looked out the window and watched as the car backed into the road and sped away. Police arrived and I gave them a written statement of the entire ordeal. I still don't know what came of the man that was at my doorstep before the police left. They did give me a small piece of information. They told me that the previous night, Alp's driver had been attacked and injured in the area, and the only thing the person took was the driver's button-up EBS shirt. The chills enveloped me once again. It all came to an end with the police asking me to call again if I spotted the person or the vehicle, along with a few cautionary words to lock the house up tight. My mom and brothers were going to visit some family in California for a few days during the summer. They packed up and left very early in the morning, around 5 a.m. Dad and I stayed behind, since I had a job now, and Dad couldn't take the time off work either. We lived in a small 3-bedroom apartment then. A few hours after my mom and brothers left, and my dad had gone for work, I got up from bed and started choosing my outfit for work that day. I hopped in the shower as usual. As I was finishing rinsing off my hair, my small Chihuahua barked her head off like I had never heard before. She's actually a pretty calm, lazy Chihuahua, so my always paranoid self started listening and shut off the water. I heard some sort of scratching and my dog still barking like crazy and growling. I got out of the shower and grabbed my towel to dry off, but I of course didn't bring my clothes into the bathroom with me. All of a sudden, I hear the sliding door swing open, and my dog is now barking even crazier than before. I know now that someone had been trying to break in and had been successful now inside my apartment. The door to my bedroom is directly across from the bathroom. I'm helpless and floatless in the bathroom with my phone in my room. So as I listened in to someone walking around in the living room, I opened the bathroom door and ran across to my bedroom. And with the door still open, I hear someone running. My dog is now beside my feet. I try to grab her to come in the room with me, but she runs away, probably to bark some more at the intruder. I yell to get out of my house, and police are on their way. They just left. I'm in my bedroom locked in. My window has always been jammed, so I can use that to escape. I quickly call 911 and change while I'm explaining I'm locked in my bedroom and someone is in my apartment. I text my dad while on the line. I'm still worried about my dog and it's been quiet for a while, so I look under my door and see no one there. I crack the door open a bit hoping it got scared and ran off. Nope. My bedroom door can somewhat see into an area of the living room. The guy is just sitting on our couch looking straight at me. He's in a hoodie and the strings are pulled tight around the hood so I can see his face. They get up and my dog goes nuts and tries to bite him. When I see him get up I get scared and close my door again. I hear as if he kicks her and she starts crying and runs over to my bedroom door. I can't see her little paws under my door, but I'm too scared to open it with the possibility he's right there. I'm crying by now, so scared about my dog, but I know I can't open the door. The operator is still on the phone with me and tells me a cop is now there and coming to my apartment. The dude comes up to my door and knocks on it softly. Then a few seconds later, I hear my front door open and shut. A minute later, there are loud knocks at the front door and it tells me to go open the door. I try to refuse because I fear that they're still out there hiding, but the operator insists that they're probably gone now. I run out to the front door, open it, and the cop is there. I explain what happened, but he just looks at me like he's bored. He tells me they'll look around the complex and to lock my doors. He didn't even bother to search the apartment to make sure they're not still in there. The cop leaves. I try to be brave and look around my apartment. When I get to my brother's room, the window is wide open and the curtains are moving. He had still been in here the whole time. He had opened and closed the front door to try and lure me out of my room. It was only when the cop arrived that he made his escape out the window. I tell my dad everything when he gets there shortly after, and he's mad that law enforcement didn't do their job properly. Either way, the cop never came back. My dad ended up installing a bunch of locks everywhere, and while he was still there, I got ready for work. As I walk out my front door to go to my car, my neighbor upstairs is standing at the top of the stairs staring at me. I then realize it was him. He stares at me the whole time I'm walking and even smiles. He had that same hoodie. I texted my dad to tell him who it was. I don't know what happened, but my dad is a scary guy. About a week later, I see him and his girlfriend moving out. On a side note, my brave and tiny protector who warned me someone was in, they had a link for a while. She got kicked hard, but she's fine. I came home one night from seeing a movie with friends to find my front door just slightly ajar. No one has a key except for me. I just assumed I had forgotten to pull the door all the way shut or something. Living in this 2-bedroom apartment is my first time living on my own alone, and I've always been skittish being alone at night in the house. I don't know why I've been that way. The place just gives me a weird feeling. I walked in and set my things down and took a long look around to find nothing out of place, and made my way to the bathroom shower before bed. While I was in there, I kept thinking to myself and replaying that moment when I last left, and whether I had shut the front door or not. I knew that I had. I finished my shower, walked to the bedroom, and crawled into bed. I had been lying there for all of 15 minutes when that feeling hit. You know the feeling I'm talking about. That overwhelming feeling that you're being watched or that someone is looking at you. I looked around the dark room, thinking I was starting to lose my mind. I was simply allowing this door thing to take control of my mind and make me overly paranoid. I rolled over in bed facing the open door, and as soon as I did, every hair on my body stood on end. I can see down the hallway and all the way to the front door from my bedroom, and with the faint glow of the bathroom light, I could make out someone standing at the very end of the hallway. They were just standing there looking at me. I got out of bed to approach the person, but didn't make it out of my bedroom before I noticed him in a dead run from my bedroom. I quickly slammed the door and grabbed the phone and called for help. The person was beating on the door hard enough that I thought it might just give, so I propped myself up against it. It took what seemed like forever for the cops to get there. The person never stopped beating on the door, even though I had yelled out who I was calling. When they finally arrived, they had no way to get into the apartment other than breaking down the door, so they asked me to come out the window and meet them at the front door with the keys. Well, one problem: the keys were on a key hook in the kitchen, so I gave the okay to break the door. They tried to calm the person down, but it's like he was crazy. He even tried to attack the officers and succeeded in biting one of them. He bit a chunk out of his arm and tried to bite off his nose. They ended up shooting him once in the leg and tasing him. Once he was down, I came out of my bedroom and looked at him. I immediately knew who he was. It was my neighbor. I asked him what the hell he was doing in my house, but he didn't respond. He was just making weird noises and flailing around on the ground. The officers told me he seemed to be under the influence of a pretty powerful drug. but which one they had no idea. An ambulance eventually came and took him away, and I told the officers I didn't want to press charges or anything because I felt like the times I had talked to him in passing, he seemed like a very good person, and maybe whatever he was on had caused this. That night passed, and so did another week. Eventually, I got a knock on the door by the neighbor in question, and I had the chance to ask him exactly what had taken place that night and why he acted the way he did. He apologized to me and told me he had taken a mixture of PCP and other drugs, which one specifically I no longer remember. He didn't realize he wasn't in his own apartment and wasn't sure how he even got into my apartment. I asked him if he had hid himself from me after I came home because I hadn't seen him, to which he answered he just didn't know. Most of that night was a blur for him. I pleaded for him to get help with his drug problem and let him know the next time, if there was a next time, I would file charges. He stated he understood and went back to his place. That was just over a year ago, and I actually haven't seen him since the day. I'm 16 and live with my mom and dad plus my young brother who is 14. I greatly enjoy playing the guitar and practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I have done with my dad and brother for the past year. It's currently school holidays, so I will most of the time play guitar in the late hours of the night with my headphones on. The town we live in is peaceful and trustworthy. We don't really lock the front door because, well, who would break in? There's 3 trained martial artists living here. The back door to my house is into the laundry room, which is sharing a wall with my bedroom, and they are connected by a hallway. It's about 12:15 a.m. and I'm playing guitar. My parents and brother are in bed and I'm doing the usual, watching YouTube guitarists while playing my favorite riffs. There's one in particular being the welcome to the Jumble intro by Guns N' Roses. Things are going alright, but I'm thirsty, so I go to the kitchen. The window above the sink overlooks the whole street, which I look out as I'm drinking a glass of water. It might sound a bit cliche, but I saw this shady looking dude talking on the phone walking up the street towards my house. I stood in the kitchen as I watched him walk. When he got past where I could see, I moved into the dining room to look out the other side. I saw him walk away, no longer on the phone. I didn't think anything of it and turned off the lights and went back to my room. Fast forward 10 minutes, I'm back in my room, doing what I was doing before. This time, I'm playing through CKY96, quite better things, and just as I finish and my guitar stops making noise, I heard scratching at the back door. It's a windy night, so I brushed it off, as the wind blowing the plants outside into the wall, but then I heard the door open. I guess whoever it was didn't see. It was locked first and tried to unlock it or something, but whatever happened, there was someone I didn't know in the room next to me. I had no idea what to do. Sure, I know my way around a fight when necessary, but on what? If this guy has a knife? Or if not, what if he's, 6'6" and huge? I heard him open the laundry door and enter the hallway. He made his way to my bedroom door and just stood there listening. I had to think fast, so I unplugged my headphones, cranked up my amp to 100 watts, and played a Sweet Child of Mine riff as loud as I could. I guess he got spooked because he bolted straight out the back door. My pissed off father storms to my bedroom to ask what the hell is going on, so I explain and show him dirty footprints that prove the intruder's route. Needless to say, I locked the doors from now on. I live with the higher part of my building, very close to the roof. In fact, there's a door near my place next to some stairs leading up to it, so it isn't that hard to get up there. I've personally only been up there once before, and after this, I don't plan on going up there alone. It was about 8 at night, and I was on my computer, checking my emails as well as just relaxing and browsing different sites. Well, at the moment, my internet decides to up and shit itself. Now this is pretty common, as I use my building's Wi-Fi, and it does this at certain points. This would be okay, but I was reading about 3 important emails and couldn't check the other 2 at the time because I had opened the other tabs, so I decided to head outside around to another building at a friend's house. They're really nice about letting me use their internet when things like this happen. So I'm getting up to leave my place, and I get out into the hallway where I hear a thump above on the roof. This didn't surprise me that much though. I thought it was probably someone up there drinking or hanging out. Sometimes it happens. So I get to the bottom of the building, and I'm leading, and I hear a loud rattle from the roof. I look up, and I don't see anything. I brush it off as a random person on the roof, who must have stumbled or something. So I continue walking. I arrive at my friend's place and sit down on the curb near the entrance. I pull out my phone, unlock it, and go to my email and continue where I left off. A few minutes into reading, I hear another rattle like at my building, only now it's here. I'm getting an increasingly bad feeling about this, but I keep telling myself it's nothing. About 5 minutes later, I happen to look up at the roof and get startled for a minute. There's a guy peering down at me, crouching. I figure he's just enjoying the view of the place, and just happened to be looking at me for the moment. I shine the light from my phone at him, and I can make out more features. He's wearing tattered pants, a black hoodie, and a mask. One of those white masks you buy at a party store. Only on it is drawn a really large smile. Now this creeped me out for a moment, but again I give myself an excuse to brush it off. I laugh nervously at the guy and just go back to reading. I look up a few minutes later, and the guy is sticking his head over even more. I'm starting to get scared now. It was just me and this guy out there, and I really didn't know what he wanted, so I decided to get up and walk back to my place. I get back with no trouble and start laughing by the time I get there, thinking about how silly I was. The guy was probably some prankster trying to scare me or something. So I'm in a good mood, walking to the entrance, and I look up and immediately feel all of my good mood drain away. That same guy is there, only now he's on my roof, in the same creepy manner staring down at me. So I'm just standing there frownzing for a moment, and this guy tilts his head as if he's wondering what's wrong. I quickly head inside and just try to forget it, going to my place and lock the door. My internet is working now anyway. So later that night, I decided to go to sleep, and I lay in my bed for a while. Finally, I start getting sleepy and shut my eyes. A little while later, I hear tapping on my window near my balcony, so I get up to investigate the noise. I go to my balcony's glass door, pull back the curtain, and immediately scream. The guy, who I'll call the roofman for obvious reasons, is hanging from the roof and staring at me upside down. He tilts his head, and I'm standing there frowning, wondering where the hell did this psychopath come from. What he does next frightens me more. He climbs down onto my balcony and knocks on my glass door like he wants in. When I don't comply, he starts banging lightly. This process escalates until he rams into the glass full force, cracking it. By this time, I'm scrambling and unlocking my door to get out of there. I open the door and go out quickly as I hear the glass shatter. I shut the door and run down the hall and bang on my neighbor's door. I hear my neighbor come to answer. I look back at my place down the hall and see my door open and the roofman peeks out. At this moment, my neighbor answers and looks at me worried. I point down the hall and he looks. The roofman is standing there staring us down. He suddenly breaks into a sprint, running at us crazily. My neighbor pulls me into his place quickly and closes the door. A couple seconds later, we feel loud banging at the door, much louder than my banging earlier. We look out the peephole and see he's relentlessly ramming the door. The door holds up though, and after a while, he gives up and runs off. We call the cops, and they search the complex for him, but it wasn't there. I don't know what scares me more, that horrific night, or knowing he's still out there, and he could do that to me again, or potentially someone else. My neighbor kindly allowed me to stay at his place for a while, saying he understood and that if something like that happened again, he'd have my back. I can't thank him enough.